and being firsthand, you want to break the ribs. So the guy go get ice, go get paper towels, and I'm just holding his head because he's bleeding down.
Wow.
In this day and age, it is the worst time for someone to have a stroke, to be in a car accident, or even have a heart attack. Right now, our ER rooms, the ER beds are full.
Attention, attention. Code trauma. Here.
Hey everyone, welcome and thanks for tuning in to Allied Health Mentors. My name's Eddie, and today I'm sitting here with Ernie Navarrete. Navarrete, I said that right? Yeah. All right, guys. So this is Allied Health Mentors. If you haven't subscribed or you haven't seen our videos, we talk about allied health career fields, from EMTs to phlebotomists to CNAs, and even people who are trying to become nurses. We just bring exposure to those career fields. And so that's why today I brought on Ernie. Ernie is a guy I've known for a really long time, probably since ninth grade of high school.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Me and Ernie went to high school together, and it's funny because if you watch my past videos, the only people I've interviewed are people I've gone to high school with. So these are all the only people I know, are people from high school and Instagram. So Ernie here is an emergency medical technician by trade. Currently, he works as an ER tech. So he's worked on a rig, on an ambulance, doing IFT. Ernie, have you done any 911 transports, anything like that?
I've done IFT calls that turn into 911 calls.
Okay, awesome. And then you work in a hospital as an ER tech.
Correct.
Awesome. Okay, so Ernie, can you tell me and the viewers why EMT? How did you get into emergency medicine, and why did you want to become an emergency medical technician?
I'll say a couple years before I became an actual EMT,
Mm-hmm.
I've actually caught myself in emergency situations,
Really?
and surprisingly, I've actually kept it cool and I didn't let the stress bother me, and I've actually became the one delegating, call 911, and
Wow.
the charge of the scene.
Wow, that's awesome. So how did you get into EMT? Did you go to a school? Was there a trade school? Like where did you go?
I just did my JT, College of the Canyons, because they
Mm.
had a program,
Okay.
and they're known for the fire tech program, which one of the classes is the EMT.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got my EMT course there, and then they just helped me find a job, practice my skills, and so forth.
Awesome. And so in that class, was it pretty hard? I know EMT classes can be pretty rigorous. There's a lot you got to know.
Yes, you need 80% or above to pass, and
Mhm.
even if it's 79%, they won't pass you.
Okay. And
It
if
is
you if you can give people a visual representation of how thick that book is, that orange book, it's there you go. It's like that big, right?
Yeah, and we go to every single page, all the chapters through the semester.
That's awesome. Did you find it hard? Did you pass it on the first time? I know some people repeat the course.
I passed on my second time. On the first time, I got
Okay.
a 76%.
Okay. So when you went back, did you feel like you knew more, or did you study just as hard? Like where were you on that spectrum?
It was a combination of both. Like I knew more, like I knew some of it,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'm like, I don't want to repeat it for a third time, so I studied extra hard
Awesome.
to
And
make sure I passed the second time.
that's great. I'm glad you passed it. And what about your NREMT? What does that stand for, if you can tell us?
The NREMT stands for the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians.
So I believe you can pass an EMT course, right, with flying colors. But what if you don't pass that NREMT? What happens?
Then you cannot work as an EMT because you need to pass the NREMT is the NREMT is your national exam board
Right.
to actually obtain your EMT license.
Okay. And do you
And
pay for that? Does the school pay for it?
no, I paid for it.
Okay. And how do you study for that? How many questions, or what's that like?
So when I did my EMT course, the my EMT teacher, she had to teach us the national scope and then the LA County scope.
Mm.
Thankfully, she was actually smart, and all of our chapter tests were geared as if it was a national test.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought that up because, your scope can change per county. Am I right?
That's correct.
So just north of us is Kern County, right?
Mhm.
We're in LA County. I've heard that in Kern County, EMTs can give things like charcoal, which in LA County we can't.
Correct.
Is that by county? The county sets that up, or how?
Yes, the county has its own rules and regulations. The reason why LA County is very strict and limited on the EMT scope
Mhm.
is because it's a big metropolis city. So
Okay.
you have fire departments, police departments that respond within average 7 minutes of wherever you are.
Wow.
Unlike Kern County, Ventura County,
Mhm.
even Riverside County, you have cities that are spread out.
Mhm.
You have residential neighborhoods that are spread out away from the main cities.
So the response time's a lot greater, right?
Correct. Also, especially hospital times. In LA, you have a lot of hospitals close to you compared to other counties. So
Mhm.
that's why the scope's a lot bigger in other counties.
Wow. Um, Interesting. Now I got to tell you, Ernie, I'm kind of envious of you because I've always wanted to be an EMT. I've taken a class twice, but due to like work and school, like at the time, I just wasn't focused on it, and so I've dropped the class twice for EMT. But to this day, I still want to be an EMT, and not necessarily for pay or for career opportunities, more because I just feel like being an EMT gives you so much knowledge in emergency situations. Like you said, when you're on the street, maybe you're out with your friends, something happens, maybe it's your family member. Right now with COVID, it's a big thing. Have you ever found yourself like out in public having to use your EMT skills?
Um, I want to say yeah.
Yeah. What do you have like an example or maybe like a quick story?
So yeah, but I think it was my first year when I got hired in my private company.
Hmm.
I want to say maybe a month afterwards. I was at a bar. I
Okay.
had I already had one drink in me.
Okay.
And like two, and
Hmm.
I see this guy like he's going onto the rail, but he's behind me, also in line.
Okay.
Within a matter of seconds, all I hear is a big smack.
Ooh, hit the ground.
His head hit the ground. He didn't go forward. He went back.
All right.
So the guy that was in front of him got down.
Hmm.
The bar back that was walking around got down.
Hmm.
I was by the feet. Again, I started delegating. Ask him
Okay.
this. The bar back was like, you know what to do? I'm like, yeah, I'm an EMT.
Okay.
He handed the scene over to me. And then that's
Awesome.
when I started delegating. I told him
Right.
to call 911, told him guy go get ice, go get paper towels. And I'm just holding his head because he's bleeding down.
Wow. Yeah. So it was just like a gash to the head. Did he hit the curb or something?
No, it was a wooden floor inside the bar.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I would say at least this much of a gash on the back of his head.
Oh, he fell back.
Yeah, he fell back.
Wow.
He needed staples.
Wow. So you went into full EMT mode, scene safety, decap BTLS, right? All that good stuff.
Head to toe, neural assessment,
Head
asking
to
him
toe.
questions. Finally, fire comes in. I'm like, oh, and I give him a report. Patients ANO times 15, GCS 14, da 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 da. Give him the whole spiel. I told him like
Mhm.
eyes are pearl. Neural assessment's fine. He's alert. Everything.
That's awesome. Yeah, and see, that's why I feel like it's so important. I feel like a lot of people should look into taking an EMT course just out of personal growth, right? And it's something. It's an emergency. Emergencies arise whenever. Like for myself, I had a basic understanding of like some basic life support. So during this whole COVID time, when family members started getting COVID, the first thing I'm thinking is BLS, right? And so I knew about their having a pulse oximeter, checking their oxygen levels, like how it be a big sign. And so I think just whether you're at a bar or you're at home with family, I think these skills are super necessary to have. But that's awesome. I'm glad you put that into play. Okay, so you went to school and then you got a job. What did you get a job doing as an EMT?
I got a job as an EMT. I
Okay.
worked on an ambulance for a private company. Um, it's a good company. I'm not going to say the name, but I still work there as per diem.
Okay. Awesome.
Um, So I was full time, then I went per diem. For those that don't know what per diem is, I just work. I get random shifts on
Mm-hmm.
the schedule. I can work once a month or once every other month at like minimum.
Okay.
But I can also still work 3, 4 days out of the week as well.
Awesome. And so this company is it's an IFT company. So I understand when you have ambulance companies, you have like IFT companies who are interfacility transport, am I right? And then you have like some that answer 911 calls. But the ones that answer 911 calls can also do IFT. Is that what I'm understanding?
No.
No. Okay.
So you have your IFT and then your 911.
Okay.
But there is one 911 company
Uh-huh.
that also has an IFT portion.
Okay.
But with that company,
Hmm.
in order to do 911, you have to do the IFT program for minimum a year before you transfer over,
Interesting.
and that's only one of the companies.
So can you give me an example of an IFT patient? Why would someone need an IFT ambulance?
Easy example I can think of. A lot of people don't know insurances, but just keep it basic.
Hmm.
If a Kaiser patient goes to Holy Cross, insurance it won't cover Kaiser,
Hmm.
but in a 911 setting, you cannot refuse a patient because of insurance.
Okay.
So if someone is down the street from Holy Cross, but is a Kaiser patient, and they're the patient that is critical life or death, fire
Right.
department will take them to Holy Cross.
Okay.
Once the ER gets the patient stable, then they can send them to a Kaiser hospital if the stay needs to be if they need to stay longer.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. So just for anyone that doesn't know, maybe you're outside of LA County or area, um, Kaiser is an example of like a private hospital, and then you have, your county hospitals or something that accepts more insurances. So if a patient goes somewhere on an emergency basis to a private hospital and they can get emergency care there, but eventually for their insurance to cover it or cover the cost of their medical expenses, they're going to go and transfer them through an IFT ambulance company to somewhere that's going to accept their insurance. So I hope I explained that right. And
Correct.
funny thing is that the only time I've seen you in uniform as an EMT was at Holy Cross. Do you remember?
I remember that.
Yeah. So I worked as a phlebotomist in the emergency room at this hospital called Holy Cross Hospital in our area, Holy Cross Medical Center. And I was going around doing my blood, and then I turn and I see this guy who I haven't seen since high school, which is Mr. Ernie here, looking all snazzy in his uniform, looking like he was ready to handle business. And it was funny because, I mean, to be honest, Ernie, I don't think I've spoken to you since that point, and even then, it was very quick, like, "Hey, how you doing?" Right? So, but we stay connected through Instagram, and I see what you're up to, and the jobs that you're doing. So I think it's great. But it was great to see you in the field. I like seeing people that I know work in the medical field because I feel like even though we haven't spoken so long, we have a lot of similar interests and we have a lot of similar stories. So me and you can probably exchange stories and start talking for hours on just like our medical experience. So I think that's awesome. Okay, so then you worked this IFT company, you got some experience. How long were you doing IFT?
I was there for about good 2.5 years as
Okay.
full time, and then I became per diem. I'm
Okay.
still technically employed with the company as per
Okay.
diem.
Awesome. So do you think new EMTs should all experience IFT?
Honestly, it depends on the route they want to take.
Okay.
If they want to
Yeah.
do fire, or if they want to take the EMT program to PD, I say do not one.
911. Okay.
Also, what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of people that do IFT companies
Mm-hmm.
are more the ones that are in nursing school,
Mm-hmm.
med school, PA school.
Right.
So those are the ones that do more IFT because
Mm-hmm.
they can actually sit with the patient, know how to write a patient care report,
Mm-hmm.
how to phrase it, get more information, and see things correlate. Certain medication, certain problematics with the
Mm-hmm.
patient. Whereas 911, it's a little bit different.
Okay. And I understand sometimes it's kind of hard to get into 911 companies, especially here in LA County, right? Because in LA County, you have to kind of go to the unincorporated areas in order to get those 911 companies. Um, is it hard for people, for like a new EMT, to get into those companies? Do they want some experience, or do they just need bodies? How does that work?
It's it's not. It is a bit. I want to say hard, but it is competitive.
Okay. Yeah.
That's more of a better word. Just more competitive.
Hmm.
Um, so it is possible that a lot of people go from IFT to 911,
Hmm.
and a lot of companies don't mind hiring them because they have experience. But also, I think a lot of companies would much rather prefer hiring someone that's brand new out of EMT school.
Okay. Why is that?
Huh?
Why is that?
Because in the company's mind, the one that came from an IFT company, they have to retrain them
Mm-hmm.
not only on their policies and procedures,
Mm-hmm.
but they probably formed bad habits.
Okay. Interesting.
Whereas someone that's brand new from EMT school, um, they don't know what it feels like. They can start forming new habits compared to someone who was in an IFT program.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Um, and for like did you ever think about going fire or PD? Like, was that ever an interest of yours to do 911?
It was so originally when I became EMT,
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to take it to law enforcement,
Okay.
work on my paramedic program, and eventually work my way up and to be a paramedic for
Mm-hmm.
the SWAT team.
Oh wow. Yeah. Do you watch there's some YouTube channels. Was it Prep Medic on YouTube or Skinny Medic? Do you ever watch those YouTube channels?
No, but I do watch this one guy. I think it's Fire Department Chronicles or
Okay.
Firefighter Chronicles.
Uh-huh. And that's what they do, that they're like a SWAT medic?
No, it's not SWAT, just firefighters.
Okay, okay.
It's just hilarious.
That's funny. I gotta
They
check it
get
out.
capture a lot of
Mhm.
what happens, what actually happens versus what school teaches you.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that the guy? He's a bald guy?
Yes.
He's a bald guy and he does like memes and stuff. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. I think I saw one where he's like questions on the NREMT be like, and then they give you like this crazy scenario and it's like, but what if there's this and then this and then you don't have this? What do you do? Da-da. And then it's like you miss scene safety or something. Yeah, like
Yes.
stupid things like that. Okay. That's funny. All right, cool. Okay, so you got that experience. Now I wanted to talk about where you are now and how that's different from your past experience. So can you tell us what you're doing now?
So right now I currently work as an ER tech
Okay.
at a big hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Our hospital, we're a STEMI and a stroke center.
Well, so what does that mean? What does STEMI mean? If you get, or what is a STEMI? Can you tell us?
Just to keep it in layman's terms, STEMI is basically cardiac related issues.
Okay, awesome.
So
And
stuff
go
like
ahead.
a heart attack, cardiac arrest, cardiac tamponade,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth.
Okay, so that's awesome. Your emergency room that you're working at or the hospital, is it a trauma center?
It is
Or
not a trauma center.
okay, what would be the difference? What's the difference from a trauma center and like a regular?
Um, Again, another example I can think of that's very easy is like a car accident.
Yeah.
Big major car accident, multiple um, patients involved.
Yeah.
One with like a severed limb or like the glove situation. That
Ooh,
would need to go
yeah.
into a trauma center. Whereas we can deal with minor injuries
Okay.
from a car accident.
Yeah.
Concussions, small lacks, scrapes, but
And
nothing major like life threatening.
okay. But you can deal with heart attacks and stroke, like you're saying. You guys are built for that.
Correct.
Awesome. And so, what are your responsibilities there as a ER tech? So, just so people know, as an ER tech, you're stationed in the ER. You're there to help out the nurses and the doctors. You're not jumping on a rig. You're not jumping on an ambulance somewhere. You're there to support them. So, what are some of the things you do to support the medical staff there?
Correct. So what I do, we do EKGs.
Okay.
Which for those that don't know, I just take a picture of the electrical system of the heart,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the EKG can tell me whether or not how the heart is reacting. So
Okay.
there's because we sometimes we'll get patients out that are asymptomatic,
Mhm.
but we'll have the EKG will show a heart attack.
Interesting. Okay.
We do stuff. Some of the EMTs like to help out the nurses a lot more, so we can help out, start IVs, take some bloods. We assist the nurses and whatever they need for the most part.
Hmm.
We help with minor um, procedures like stitching up a laceration,
Hmm.
stapling, cleaning some wounds, and again treating the wounds. Another thing that we do a lot is splints
Okay.
from fingers, shoulders, legs, um, to give a stable, either so they can go home and see a
Hmm.
specialist,
Right.
or for inpatient and they're gonna need surgery as long as we keep it stable.
Okay. Interesting. And so do you feel like the experience that you're having now as an ER tech is greater or than the IFT, or maybe do you find more of an interest in being an ER tech? How do you compare those two?
They both have its rewards,
Mhm.
and they both of them you can see the appreciation from the patients. It's all a matter of how you treat the patient.
Okay.
Because I've had patients that are very grateful in the ER, and I've also had patients very grateful when I was on the ambulance.
Mm.
It's just how I catered, how I showed sympathy and empathy, and how I treated the patient.
Awesome. That's great. And I think that's awesome to hear because I think, when we're young and we're looking at like an EMT program or looking at working in the ER, we think like Grey's Anatomy, right? We think Grey's Anatomy, the glory. We think, man, this is going to be a good job. We're going to get paid tons of money. But, it's not about that, right? One, EMTs notoriously don't always make the best money, right? And as an ER tech, you probably make more money than you did on the IFT, I'm sure. And so it's more about that patient interaction and the rewarding part of helping these patients. So I'm glad you're enjoying that. Do you ever have code blues in the ER? Do you ever have to respond to those as an EMT?
Oh yeah, cold blues. I think I've done CPR at least 3 times in the
Okay,
ER. Yeah,
interesting. Do you mind maybe like talking about what it's like to give CPR or what it's like to do chest compressions? If you're comfortable, I know it can be tough for some people.
I don't mind. Um, for those that are CPR certified and they tell you, and being firsthand, you want to break the ribs.
Yeah.
It is actually a lot easier once the ribs are broken,
Hmm.
and it's actually a lot easier on a live person than it is on the dummy.
Yeah.
100% a lot easier.
Okay.
Um, Also, the beat, the song they tell you, like staying alive as you're doing compressions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go faster.
More than 100 beats per minute faster?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to start pumping to like some dubstep then. Right? You just got to
Yeah.
like keep going some rave music in your head.
Yes.
Wow. That's crazy. Um and how does this compare to like Grey's Anatomy? Have you ever watched Grey's Anatomy and you're like, "Oh, this is like work?" Or what's that like for you?
It is completely different from Grey's Anatomy. Anyone that
Okay.
works in the field, we judge the health.
That's funny. So if someone wants to be an EMT, what should they watch? What do you think is the most realistic thing you've seen?
I think the funniest and most realistic one I've seen is the show called Sirens,
Oh
but
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they took it off Netflix.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
It was a TBS show, I think, and I think it ran for 2 seasons because I watched
Yeah.
it too. Yeah. Okay. So Sirens is a good example.
Yeah, because you have your Ricky Rescue, you
Uh-huh.
have the one that likes the trauma and the creepy shit,
That's
then you
funny.
have the one that they treat like princess, then
Yeah.
you have the veteran that's all bitter.
Yeah.
But then they show like we all know the nurses, we all know the cops, and
Mm,
we all interact with each other.
that's awesome. Okay, so you've worked, on a rig, you've worked in the ER. What else could you do with an EMT certification if you wanted to? What other careers are there for EMTs that you know of?
Um, paramedics and EMT is different, but you need your
Okay.
EMT for the paramedic program.
Okay.
Other jobs, other jobs I can think of is still as an EMT, but not in a different industry.
Okay.
So I got offered a position to be an EMT for the film industry, to be a
Oh
standby
wow.
in case anything happens.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily just the healthcare field, but you have other industries as well. I've also done standby EMT for the the Warrior Dash,
Oh, okay.
which is similar to the spotter run.
Yeah.
So you have that. You have the fitness industry as well.
Mhm.
I've also done standby EMT for fundraisers and um, a volunteer service. In case anything happened, it was Skid Row.
Oh wow.
So again, you have that organization, the nonprofit, where you do a
Mhm.
standby EMT.
That's interesting.
Um, Firefighter, ER tech, and honestly, a lot of general fields
Hmm.
will accept EMT as a some type of I'm skipping the word, experience.
Hmm.
Like you want to be like a surgical tech or another tech in a hospital area, they'll
Hmm.
consider experience because you've made patient contact. You
Okay.
know medical devices, equipments, and the general basis of medications.
Awesome. That's interesting. Um, what I was gonna ask. So a big topic before I let you go, a big topic that's going on right now is COVID, right? It's completely smothered the medical field and emergency medicine. Can you maybe give us some examples of how COVID has impacted your work?
I can tell you right now, in this day and age, it is the worst time for someone to have a stroke, to be in a car accident, or even have a heart attack. Right now, our ER rooms, the ER beds are full.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Patients are waiting twice as long in the lobbies just for a bed.
Mm-hmm.
I think last week in the ER, we had 7 ICU patients.
Wow.
They were ready to go upstairs to ICU, but because ICU was so packed, they couldn't take them. So we had to keep the ICU patients until a bed cleared up.
Wow.
And more likely, 80% of the time, if a bed does clear up in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
more likely someone passed.
Wow. Wow. That's sad.
That's how the ERs are right now.
Okay. And this is
And then
something that you're experiencing, but are you hearing the same from your peers, from friends that in the field, and is everyone kind of saying the same thing?
correct. It's not just me. It's for my other peers as well.
Okay. And so when all this started, right, and you're hearing the news about how dangerous COVID is, and you're on the front line and you're an EMT and you're going to be the first line of defense against this thing, did you ever think like, yeah, I'm going to go do something else? Or were you like, no, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to help patients. What went through your head?
It was one of those things like, all right, let's basically I almost like being inside. You gotta buck yourself in because I'm in for the long haul.
Awesome. That's great. And I think that's awesome because anyone watching this who wants to be an EMT should know that this is that type of attitude you should have. This is, the the selfishness,
Selfless.
selflessness. You're not going to be selfish as an EMT. I went to community college. You're going to be there for the patient, right? You're not just going to think about yourself. You're going to be there for that patient when you're on duty. And some people who have an idea of what being an EMT is, but maybe not realize the dangers that you can put yourself in or what you're going to have to experience. I think right now is a great time for people to sit back and really decide, do they want to be in the middle of a pandemic the way you are now? And yeah, we have this pandemic, but in 10 years we might have another pandemic. So it's just the nature of the beast. It's what you go through in this field. So I applaud you and thank you for your service. I know I work with patients, but I don't work with patients the way you work with patients. I'm not in a hospital, and I don't wear an N95. I don't wear a PAPR. Is that, by the way, is that what you're wearing? What's your PPE like right now? What are you doing to keep yourself safe?
Just an N95. I have to constantly shave.
Oh, you have to shave? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because N95 you can't have a beard.
Right. Are you wearing? I see a lot of people wearing surgical masks over their N95s. Do you do that too?
Correct. I did it as well.
Okay. Awesome.
Um, it's just extra precaution.
Yeah.
Also, not necessarily just extra precaution, but it increases the shelf life of the N95
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
because that N95 is technically supposed to be used like kind of like a 1 day kind of thing,
Right.
like one patient.
Mhm.
But with the simple mask over it, we can just try and use it for the rest of the day to try and keep our resources.
Awesome. That's crazy. I remember, when I worked in the hospital, I would see like boxes and boxes of N95s. Sometimes they were like on the floor, or like they were thrown, like, it was one time use, like you said, so people would just throw them away. And I would see trash cans filled of N95. So it's so ironic that now that it's like gold, right? We need them.
Yes.
Um, that's crazy. Okay. So Ernie, before we let you go, can you think of maybe like your most rewarding time as an EMT? Is there a patient or a situation that stands out that you really felt like you did good, like that you were there for them? Is there any inspirational story that you can give?
The only one that I can think of that comes to mind is when I worked on the ambulance. I had this
Mm.
patient. He fell from a painting ladder.
Wow.
He said that the fall had been at about 60 feet on his back.
Wow.
He fractured his L4, L6, C6, and C5.
And for people that don't know, that's your vertebrae, right?
Correct. So
Mm.
the numbers I just gave is the locations of your vertebrae. So he fractured 2 bones in his neck and 2 bones on his lower back, along with 2 broken ribs on each side.
Wow.
The I remember them specifically because I remember it was two, 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 and two.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
So when you saw him, was he healed up or was he still hurting?
No, he was still hurting.
Oh wow.
His He had casts on both arms. He had a neck collar on still.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a patient bed, and we need to slide him onto our gurney,
Hmm.
drive him from the valley to Monrovia.
Oh wow. That's like a what, 40 minute?
It was about a 40-minute drive.
Yeah.
I think it was more 30 minutes, only
Okay.
because there was no traffic. Um, but yeah, I remember him very specifically because like we're treating him for like, pain. We're talking to him to kind of distract him from the pain that his body's in.
Mm-hmm.
And our driver, we at the time we didn't know. We asked him afterwards because even the patient asked.
Mm-hmm.
In the back, it was me, the patient, and my trainee because I was also training someone else. When we get there, our driver says like, "Oh yeah, he was going 55 miles per hour or 50. I think it was 50 on a 65-mile zone on the freeway. So he was going slower than the speed limit,
Oh.
which all of us in the back we didn't know. We thought he was going the speed limit. But if you think about it, in the back of an ambulance, when you're driving
You moving
normal
around?
speed, if you're a patient, you feel every bump.
Yeah.
Uh, it is hard to write. It is hard to do patient care at a normal speed limit in the back of an ambulance. He was actually grateful for all of us to the point because we handle his patient care, his pain.
Uh-huh.
He actually wrote a letter to our company, to the owner, and actually was saying how appreciative he was with all of us.
That's awesome.
I still remember him to this day. I still remember his face.
That's great. Yeah, because it's the small things, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
being mindful of your patients and giving them the extra attention. That's awesome. What before I let you go, what advice do you give to other EMTs, or maybe not EMTs, new EMTs, or people who are looking into this field? Is there any advice you can give? Any ending remarks that you would like them to bring to mind before they enter this field?
Always have an open mind, and never have a closed book. You're constantly learning and learn as much as you can. I'm EMT, ER tech. I'm still learning. The nurses are teaching me new stuff. Patients are teaching me new stuff. From their healthcare problems to what brought them to the ER. Um, yeah, just constantly learn and absorb as much information as you can. Because when you stop learning, that's when your patient care is gonna derail.
Okay. That's good advice. That's really good advice. I definitely feel that. Um, well, Ernie, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day and schedule to be here with us, and just give us more exposure on what it's like to be an EMT and insight. Um, I if I was hurt on the street, I would hope that you're there treating me, because I know you would do all that DCAT BTLS and make sure I'm good. So I applaud you for what you're doing. I hope you continue to do it and help people, and whatever your next endeavor is, past EMT, I know you're going to be great at it because you had so much people skill. You have such great interpersonal communication. So I think that's awesome, man. I really appreciate you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Eddie.
Yeah, of course, Ernie. Yeah, well, thank you. Round of applause. Good job. All right, guys. This is Allied Health Mentors. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to find Ernie, can people find you? Do you want people to find you?
Yeah, I'm on
How can we
Instagram
find
and
you?
Facebook.
How
Huh?
what's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram it's Ernie
Okay.
underscore Nav NAV
Uh-huh.
26.
All right, I'll put your Instagram there. People can follow you. Ernie has an exciting life, and I'm sure if anyone had any questions, he would be happy to go ahead and answer them for you if he has time. But if he doesn't answer you, leave him alone, because he's probably saving someone's life. All right, so, but I'm sure he'd be more than happy to give insight to anyone. All right, so Ernie, it's a wrap, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
I'll see you,
Enjoy.
man. Thanks. Oh wait, hold on. That was a fail.